The News Line.
Hello and welcome back to People's TV. It has only been a few days since Palestine was recognized as a sovereign state by the international community, and the development has sparked both praise and criticism. Notably, Yoav Gallant, Israel's former Minister of Defense, and Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister, have addressed the West, emphasizing that Israel existed under British mandate before being recognized as a sovereign Jewish state. However, British rule ended 77 years ago, and the UK no longer has any authority over Jerusalem. The city's fate must be decided solely by Israel. The West has no right to dictate or interfere in matters concerning Jerusalem. Frankly, instead of meddling, the West should confront the cancer of radical Islam festering right under its nose. This is a very practical assessment, given the Islamic encroachment originating within the European hemisphere. While these Western nations can maintain positive relations with Israel, their leaders have compromised with radical Islamism, turning against Israel to safeguard their political interests. To make matters worse, they deliberately ignore the invasion taking place outside Europe. As discussed earlier, Qatar is effectively buying influence over European leaders with its crude oil wealth. Meanwhile, Iran has successfully tested an intercontinental ballistic missile. Soon, not only Israel but Europe itself could face catastrophic consequences. For now, Europe remains relatively safe, thanks to Israel's relentless fight against radical Islamism. The situation in the UK is alarming in cities led by Muslim mayors, who have brazenly defied the authority of the central government. In a clear act of rebellion, they continue to fly the Palestinian flag in government institutions, flagrantly ignoring the official gazette that explicitly forbids it. Such open defiance not only undermines the rule of law but also signals a troubling disregard for national unity and security. Will the British government go as far as issuing a gazette forbidding the flying of the Palestinian flag? Research shows that 9 out of 10 Britons oppose recognizing Palestine as a sovereign state, leaving Keir Starmer acutely aware that any misstep could spell political suicide. The fear of public backlash clearly constrains his ability to act decisively, even as some local leaders openly challenge the central government. It is important to note that Israel faces no resistance from ordinary British citizens. The opposition comes from politicians in power whose pockets have been lined with Qatari oil money. Now let's turn to the United States. A protest erupted among U.S. Air Force pilots who refused to deliver weapons to Israel, supplied to them by the American government. The pilots were subsequently arrested, highlighting the deep tensions and divisions over U.S. support for Israel. Now consider ordinary U.S. citizens. When Eden Alexander, a former Hamas hostage, announced he was returning to join the IDF, the public erupted in applause, demonstrating genuine support for Israel. Contrast this with the former head of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a dismissed U.S. Army officer, who publicly accused Israel of starving Gazans. Figures in high positions like him can be bought and influenced by Qatari money, yet ordinary Americans remain uncorrupted, seeing through the lies and manipulation of elites. This stark divide exposes how true allegiance to Israel lies not with politically compromised leaders, but with the people themselves. Sri Lanka is not immune to this threat. Numerous madrasa schools are scattered across the island, and what is being taught within their walls remains largely unknown. While these institutions claim to provide education, we cannot rule out the possibility that some may be promoting radical Islam or fostering racial divisions under the guise of learning. This lack of transparency raises serious concerns about the future influence of extremist ideologies on young minds in the country. Some of our viewers requested that we address the Freedom Flotilla, the organization that protests the naval blockade imposed by the Israeli Navy. Currently, around 40 yachts are reportedly heading toward the Gaza Strip. However, Greta Thunberg has recently been removed from her leadership role due to internal disagreements. Like Hamas, the Free Flotilla relies on false propaganda to promote its so-called Palestinian cause. On multiple occasions, they have accused the Israeli Navy of attempting to kidnap participants. In one notable instance, they claimed their boat was attacked, but investigations revealed that the fire on board was caused simply by discarded cigarette butts. Such repeated misrepresentations expose the flotilla's agenda as misleading and politically motivated rather than genuinely humanitarian. It has now been revealed that several members of the Freedom Flotilla held a secret meeting with Hamas terrorists in Algeria. This should come as no surprise. After all, even the UN maintains close ties with Hamas, highlighting the depth of international complicity and the blurred lines between so-called humanitarian organizations and terrorist networks. Now let's turn our attention to the Vatican and the global Roman Catholic Church. Pope Leo XIV's recent statement calling the Gaza Strip the land of the martyrs is not only careless, it is deeply misleading. He clearly does not refer to innocent civilians, but rather to Hamas terrorists. This marks a disturbing low for the church and its leadership. Recall that his predecessor even placed a keffiyeh on a model of the manger during Christmas. In Christianity, martyr is a sacred term reserved for those who die for their faith. By applying it to terrorists, the church is deliberately twisting a holy concept to legitimize terrorism and radical Islamism in the Middle East. Such statements betray both moral authority and the very essence of Christian teaching, turning a sacred word into a tool of propaganda. Lastly, the story of the Bibas family lays bare the human cost of Hamas brutality. Only the father survived. Both his children and his wife were returned home in coffins. Adding insult to injury, Hamas initially sent back the body of another Palestinian woman instead of his wife. Israel had to intervene firmly to recover the correct body. On social media, the grieving father shared the depth of his sorrow, speaking of how much he misses his family this Rosh Hashanah. This heartbreaking episode exposes not only the merciless nature of Hamas but also the devastating personal toll their actions take on innocent families caught in the crossfire. In conclusion, Hamas has resorted to desperation, sending a letter to Qatar requesting delivery to the Trump administration, demanding a 60-day ceasefire in exchange for only half of the hostages. This blatant attempt at negotiation directly contradicts Israel's unwavering position. No ceasefire will occur until all hostages are released simultaneously. As former President Donald Trump declared at the United Nations General Assembly, if the West claims the authority to dictate terms to a sovereign Israel, then Israel has every right to take whatever measures are necessary to defend its very existence. Hamas demands reveal both their weakness and their disregard for Israel's absolute red lines. If this report helped you see the situation on the ground clearly, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to People's TV, where truth has no agenda, and facts speak louder than spin.
Subscribe us for more details.